Hi, I hope you guys are having a good day. Before we get started, be sure to check last night's homework on page 15 with the posted answer key. Open your packets now to page 16 or take out a piece of paper for notes if you did not print out the packet. If you're using a separate piece of paper, be sure to label the paper with the page number and write the question numbers on it as we go along. What I want you to do first is try the questions on pages 16 and 17 on your own before you continue watching the video. Pause the video now and work on pages 16 and 17 for a little while on your own. Question number 3 on page 16, the correct answer is choice 4. Now for this question, all of the choices are talking about the y-intercept. So your y-intercept is going to be where the graph touches the y-axis. So for f of x, my y-intercept would be equal to 1, or it would be the coordinate 0, 1. If you're looking at a table, like for h of x, your y-intercept on the table would be where x is equal to 0 on the table. So if I look to see where x is equal to 0, y is equal to -1, so my y-intercept would be -1, and it's the coordinate 0, -1. For g of x, you can either look at the graph or you can look at your table where x is equal to 0, y is 3, making my y-intercept 3. Once you take and you list your y-intercepts for all of them, then you would want to take and go and compare them. For choice 4, it's saying that for g of x, which is 3, is greater than f of x, which is 1, so that would be true. And it also is saying that g of x, which is 3, is greater than h of x, which is -1, which is also true. You should always go back and check your other choices, and for none of the choices, 1, 2, or 3, are the statements true. Therefore, your answer would have to be choice 4. Be sure when you're doing this, you should be writing down work like I am in order to get the multiple choice correct. Like for choice 2, you should be writing down f of x, which would be 1, they're saying is greater than g of x, which is 3. That is not a correct statement, therefore it can't be 2. That's the work that I should see on each of your choices. For question number 4, what type of function is the graph showing? This would be an exponential. Now, it's clearly not a line, and an absolute value, remember, would be a V shape, either going upward or downward. So this would be the graph of an exponential, which would be choice 2. On question number 5, which graph is represented? For this, you should go to your calculator and type y1 into your calculator, and then look at the graph. When you're looking at the graph, be sure to pay attention to very specific points, especially the roots. The roots are where it touches the x-axis. So specifically, when you're looking at your calculator, make sure the roots are going to be x equals -2, x equals 1, and x equals 2. When you type it into the calculator, choice 3 is going to give you the same exact graph that has intersections at the x-axis where x equals -2, x equals 1, and x equals 2. For question number 6, they're talking about the zeros. Now the zeros and the roots are going to be the same thing. So again, in order to get the zeros or the roots, you can either look at the table where y equals 0, or you can look at the graph where it touches the x-axis. Those would be the two different ways that you can take and find the roots or the zeros. So if you were to take and look at your table where y is 0 x is 0 when y is 0, and x is 9 when y is 0. Be careful about picking choice 1, because yes, when x is 9, y is 0, but there is also a second answer. So always make sure that you're double checking, and it would be a good idea to look at your graph as well. If you hit the graph button, you're going to notice your graph looks like this, and you're going to notice that there would be 2 roots or zeros at x equals 9 and when x is equal to 0. Going on to question number 7 on page 17, this is asking you to explain, so you're going to have to take and write a sentence to determine the zeros. And it also wants you to state the zeros. Now again, there's 2 ways to do this. One thing you could do is you can take and graph the equation. So you would take and type into your calculator y1 equals x plus 3, x minus 1, x minus 8. Once you graph it, you would want to take and make a sketch of the graph. And again, the zeros are going to be where it touches the x-axis, so you are going to have to be able to determine those exact points. So if you were to say that you're looking at the graph, your explanation then would need to say you looked at the graph where it touches the x-axis. So the zeros are where it touches the x-axis. And then they do want you to take and state the zeros. So your answer would be x equals -3, x equals 1, and, sorry, I wrote this wrong. This would be x equals 8 would be your last zero. That is if you decided to do it graphically. You can also use your calculator and copy down your table of values and show where y equals 0. Your x values would be the roots or the zeros. Now you can also take and solve this algebraically. If you decide to solve algebraically, the first thing you would want to do is to set this equal to 0, x plus 3, x minus 1, and x minus 8. Now, just like before, we have done t-charts before. This is not exactly a t, it's a little bit bigger. You'll be making more of an h chart, you can call it. You want to set each of the factors equal to 0, and then solve it for x. So x is equal to -3. When x minus 1 equals 0 and you solve it, you get x equals 1, x minus 8 equals 0. You add the 8, and x is equal to 8. So these would be your roots, and since it does say to explain, you could say that you set each factor equal to 0, and solved for x. Would be another way that you can answer this question. Now 8 is going to be similar. If you look at question number 8, they're talking about a cubic. Cubic means that it's going to be x to the 3rd power. When you have something to the 3rd power, that means that it could possibly have up to 3 roots or 3 places where the graph would be touching the x-axis. So for this question, they want to know which one of these equations could represent the graph. The easiest way to do with this would probably be graphically to do y1 equals, type in the choices, and match up the graph. And match up the graph. That would be your easiest way to do this question. And if you do type them into your calculator, you're going to notice that choice 2 is going to give you the same exact graph. Now, another thing you could do is if you look at the graph at the roots, you're going to notice that this is going to be x equals 1, x equals -1, and x equals -3. If you were to take and solve these for x plus 3 equals 0. When you solve it, you get x equals -3. When you solve the next one, you would get x equals -1. And for the last one, you would end up with x equals 1. So that is another way if you decide that you want to solve this algebraically. Question number 9, the answer should be choice 4. The easiest way to do this would just be to type it into your calculator and look at the graph. Keeping in mind choice 3 has to be a quadratic or a parabola because it's raised to the second power. You can also do this as a shift, realizing this means to go up 1, and this is going to be to the right 3, which is what's happening when you start at 0, 0. You went right 3 and up 1. And again, the absolute value will always be a V shape. Question number 10, the correct answer is choice 2. We've actually done this on a previous page, so if you turn back to page 14, question number 4, we have already done the same exact question before, so you can get your notes on that one. Now for homework tonight, you're going to be doing 20 minutes of IXL or until you get an 85 on each section. Remember, you might not make it to all of the sections in the 20 minutes, and that's completely fine. But if you do get up to an 85 on each section under the 20-minute time, you can stop. Now the sections that you're going to be doing are going to be section CC1, section CC2, and there's 2 sections in CC that aren't numbered, but they say the word new next to them. Those are going to be the 4 sections that you're doing tonight for homework. Have a nice day, and if you do have any questions, remember you can just message me on Edmodo if you're unsure of how to do some of these questions. Have a good day. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.